Hello. I think this should be working. I think I'm streaming on like a bunch of platforms at the same time, and I'm doing like a vertical stream and a horizontal stream at the same time. So I think, in theory, I should be streaming on TikTok and also on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube. So basically everywhere all at the same time. But I don't know if I can see all of the chats, so that's not ideal. Okay, I've got TikTok chat over there. Whoop. Let me just make my screen a bit smaller so I can see everything. And I've got Instagram chat. And we also do have Facebook chat. I don't know if I can't tell if I'm live on Facebook or not. It's too confusing. I don't think anyone watched on Facebook last time. Oh, hello. Hi. Can you hear the notification noise? Because that was really loud on my side. I don't know if I've just deafened all of you with that as well. I think it was a sound to let me know that someone has posted in chat. Hello. You did hear it, but saw nothing. Yeah, nothing came up on the screen. I think it was when you said something. Although you just said something and it didn't beep. So I don't know what caused the notification sound. And also what the notification was really. Interesting. The notification thing is turned down in volume. Interesting. Yeah, so I don't know what that notification will have been for. Oh well. One of those things, I suppose. Okay, so I'm going to hopefully stream for 3 hours like I did last week, because that seemed like a pretty good amount of time to stream, and by the end of it my brain was melting a bit, frazzled. Let me just jump between the scenes so we can check everything's working. So this is full screen camera, then we got this nice background, jazzy, and then we've got Unity. Looks like it's working pretty well. I just made that full screen. Yeah, nice, look at that, full screen. Full screen view. Alright, so the project has this in it still, so I'm just going to click remove readme assets because we don't need the tutorial in there. Oh, and it crashed everything. So that's ideal. There we go. See, I got the beep again when you sent a message. I'm just going to mute my desktop because I'm not actually playing anything sound-wise. That might fix the problem. Cool, we actually have more people watching on TikTok than Twitch right now, which is a surprise nobody saw coming. Alright. You're getting a Hue lad. Don't know you too well. I don't know if it's based on me or based on you. It's probably based on you. But that would be odd. Alright, let's see. Okay, so I'm going to hit play and show you what we made last week. I'm just going to put that down there so you can see. So we have a character. Let me just press play. I'll just make it full screen so you can see it on TikTok and everything as well. Alright, so this is our player character with health. These are our enemies. They've got health bars as well. This is a wall. You can't walk through the wall. The enemies can't walk through the wall. Yeah, enemies can't go through the wall. You can shoot, I think. Yep, shoot. And it does damage to the enemies. They keep spawning in. I think there's a maximum amount of enemies that if we hit that, it won't spawn any extra ones in. But we can do damage to them. We can kill them. And that's basically, I think, everything we did in 3 hours last week. So I'm hoping if we have another super productive stream, we'll get quite a bit more done today as well. So I have a few ideas of what I want to add, but there's a few things to add to kind of tidy this up a bit first. So my bullets feel not very powerful. I think maybe we want to up how much damage they do, because it takes too many shots to kill the enemy. And also we might want to make the bullets a bit bigger. It's quite hard to aim and shoot. I'll just try with my I've unplugged my gamepad, so I can't do that. Let's see. Just move my drink out of the way before I spill it on myself. Okay, so what should we try first? We can like flash the enemies like red when they get damaged. That could work. We could add screen shake when you fire. We could make it so the enemies damage you when you collide with them. That'd be probably be a good thing to do first. Whoop. Let's try that. So on our player character mover, shooter, health manager, suppose we could do it on that, or we could just do a new script. We'll call it character collision manager, or player collision manager even, because we're probably going to have one on the enemies that is a bit different as well. Cool. And you should be able to see this. It's going to be really small on TikTok though. Maybe if I just zoom in a bunch and if I talk through what I'm coding, that might be okay. Alright, let's see. Did you hear that notification noise? That was really loud again for me. Make it really small so the TikTok users need microscopes to see it. That is one possible option. Okay, so let's go back to Unity and open that script we just made. Collision manager. And in here we're going to do on collision, enter collision. And then we want to find out, is the other object an enemy? So how are we at the moment deciding? We've got a player layer, we do have an enemy layer, so we can just do that. If the other object layer, let's make this full screen. There's no way you'd be able to see that on TikTok otherwise. How come you're using layers and not tags? Because I wanted the physics collisions. So if I go over here, I can't show you because it won't pop up. But maybe you'll be able to see this. Can you see this? Yeah, you can see this. So you get a collision matrix for the layers, and then you can just tick: can enemies collide with enemies? At the moment, yes. Player bullets can collide with enemies, but they can't collide with other player bullets or with the player. And the player can collide with the player, I guess, if we were going to make it multiplayer. But this is just, I think, default behavior for having if you use layers instead of tags. Yeah. Cool. So let's jump back into the script. We're going to do basically if other object layer is enemy, and then we're going to do if, basically what it says here, if collision game object, well, we can call it, yeah, collision dot game object dot layer equals, I don't like doing this here where it says like layer mask name to layer. I'll just put it in like this and then explain. I don't like doing this because you're typing out the word enemy, and if you change the name of the layer, it would just not really work correctly. So to get around that, we're just going to add here a serialized field, private, we'll call it layer mask, and then we'll call it enemy layer. And then we can get rid of this bit here, and we can say if the layer equals enemy layer, then we know it's on the enemy layer, and that way you haven't like hard coded anything. And if I save this script and go back to Unity, we should on our enemy, not on our enemy, on a player, be able to specify what the enemy layer is down here. So right behind me, I can't get out of the way. You basically, there's a drop down list, and I'm choosing the enemy for what the enemy layer is. Cool. And then that's a better way of doing it, because then I'm not typing out the word enemy to have that. We don't really need that line in. That was just to get it to prompt what it would be. Hey, just got a sub. Rubik's Cubed. Thank you. I'll dab on that. Do people still dab? Is that still a thing? I'm gonna bring it back if not. So if you collide with an enemy, we want to hurt the player, so we're going to need the health manager. So we'll do private health manager, health manager, and then we'll do that require component type of health manager, and then in awake we can do that where we grab a reference to the health manager. Then in here we can do health manager dot die. Would be quite extreme. If you just hit the enemy, you probably don't want to die. You probably want to do like what do you want to do? Like a damage? Take damage. We could do like max health divided by 10 and do 10 can't get max health, but if we jump over to that, oop. It keeps making noises, but it doesn't tell me what the noises are specifically. So I'm like, what? What was that noise? I've got some comments. Bean Thieves is doing the same thing right now. You're coding in Unity as well, do you mean? And Scarface. This is how to make a game really good. It is. It's crazy. It's been so long since I was doing that YouTube channel though. It's like 11 years now. That's crazy. And we got Smamuel is watching on TikTok. Hello. Cool. Alright, so we're trying to get the health manager here. Rubik's Cube surgery went well the other day. Oh, that's great. Good to hear. Are you back home or are you still in hospital? What's new? Health manager. So in a health manager, we probably want to do a public float max health. And then we can send back the max health. And then we'll do the same for current health, so we can send that back as well. Cool. And then in here we can, yeah, leave that. That's good. Divided by 10. So when you collide with an enemy, we deal a tenth of your health in damage. We could though. So this only happens when you make the collision, but we actually want to do it while you stay in the collision as well. Void on collision stay. And then I'm going to do here a oh, that is another way we could do it though. We could do this here where it causes damage over time while you're colliding with them. That could be interesting. I feel like usually though in these games, when you hit something, it causes damage. You have a little bit of a window where you can't get hurt again, and then it'll like re-damage you. So let's maybe go that way instead of this funky way of doing it. So we'll have a new method called private void try to damage player. And then we'll do, we need like a timer. So we'll do private float time last damaged. And then yeah, we'll have a damage cooldown of like 1 second. Seems fine for now. Surprisingly outpatient. Ah, nice. Living off mashed potato and pudding. No. I feel like that'll be quite fun at first, but probably you probably get tired of that really quickly. Got frothy coffee. It's nice. You used to watch my videos when you were 13 and you're 23 now. That's crazy. Crazy. I'm really old now is basically the gist of that. Alright. Try to damage player. So if time now is more than the time you were last damaged plus the damage cooldown, then take damage a tenth of your full health, and the time last damage equals time now. That makes sense, I think. And then in here we will do on collision stay, we'll just try to take damage. Try to damage player. And we'll also have that in here as well. I think you were 21, give or take, and you're in your 30s now. It's odd. It's crazy. We're all getting really old. Very quickly. Time is flying by. What's weird though is like Twitch is still a thing and it hasn't changed that much in like 10 odd years or whatever. I guess it's changed a bit, but well, like YouTube as well. That hasn't changed a great deal. Hoggy's Art. Hello, how are you? What have you been drawing lately? A good friend of mine and I have an existential crisis when we realise how long we've known each other. Yeah, it's crazy how like stuff feels like a short amount of time and is a long amount of time at the same time. Like, yeah, time is a very weird concept. Known each other since 1998. So that's crazy, that, isn't it? Things before the year 2000 are now 25 plus years ago, which is crazy because the millennium doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Trying to learn 3D still. You've been doing 3D for like quite a few years now. You're probably more trained than a lot of 3D artists. Okay, so we try to take damage if you collide with the player, and then we probably want to just do that in here as well, so try to damage player. Cool. So now if we jump back into our game, whoop, and press play, in theory the enemies, when we touch them, should cause damage to the player. I'll just make it full screen so you can see. Oops. That is also not the right thing. There you go. Play. Cool. So if I walk into an enemy, it should have hurt me, but it has not hurt me. So that's not ideal, is it? Is there a chance the enemies are not on the enemy layer? Maybe. Let's find the prefab for the enemy. No, they are on the enemy layer. Let's go back to our player. We do have a health manager on here. Max health is 100. Let's have a look then. So on collision, enter collision. Would the collision be the other object? Presumably. And the collision is I mean, I would have thought this would be the other game object that we collided with. Yeah. Who's colliding with? Oops. So if time is if the time is more than the time since we last got damaged plus the damage cooldown, which should be like 1, Then health manager should be on the player. We should get that. Take damage. We get the max health divided by 10. And set the time damage. Let me just add like a debug.log. And we'll do player took damage. And then we'll do plus that. So we can see how much damage was inflicted to the player. And then we'll also do a debug log. Yeah, basically what it says there. Oops. Trying to damage player. So now we should be able to see, does it try to damage the player or not? Hoggy's Art wants to make a game. Nice. Co-workers born in the 2000 and something refuse to accept their adults. Yeah, that's crazy as well. Press play. Okay, so if I make this full screen, if we walk into an enemy now, which we're doing, we should see those messages pop up, and it doesn't look like we are doing. So that helps us figure out what's going wrong. Nothing was coming up in our log for that, which means it's not getting those collisions. So I do have enemy ticked on the layer in there. Dumb question, but is this software free? Yeah, actually, like Unity is completely free, and then the coding software I'm using, Visual Studio, it gets installed with Unity and it's free as well. So you can make, well, a lot of games are like just completely made in Unity. They used to charge for dark mode, but dark mode's free now, which is pretty cool. I'm trying to damage player. So why is that not happening? It probably means that we're not getting to this bit. So I'm going to do a debug log here. Debug log colliding with, and we'll get the name of the object we're colliding with. And then also let's just do a debug log. Yeah, basically this. We'll say what layer the other object is on, and then we will also do debug log enemy layer equals enemy layer, and then we'll try and figure out what's going wrong from that. Is the player in the enemy layer? No, players in the player layer, and the enemies are set to the enemy layer. I'm wondering though, the way I've set it up is like it's a tick box, and I've ticked the enemy layer on the tick box. I'm wondering if that somehow is different to just putting it on the layer. Okay. Alright, so it's hard for you to see that on TikTok, but basically it's saying the enemy layer is Unity Engine layer mask, which I guess is different to the actual collision layer being layer 8 or layer 0. So 0 is the plane. I don't know why that would be that. The floor, I guess, we're colliding with the floor, and then colliding with the enemy, which is layer 8. There's also wall, which is the name of that. So let's see. What we actually want to do is, I'll do it here, and it might figure it out for us. Let's let's see. If we do check if collision game object layer matches with the layers that are selected as part of layer mask, which is quite a long-winded thing. Okay, this looks promising. I think that's what we need to do, and this looks super confusing as a piece of code, but I can try and explain what that's doing. Basically, we get the value of the enemy layer, and the enemy layer is the layer mask, and the value is like a layer mask. This is really confusing to explain. Let me think. Best way to explain a bit mask. So if you've seen those like binary numbers where it's like loads of zeros and ones, each 0 and 1 represents a different layer. So the enemy layer is one of those 0 and 1s, and so we want to find out it's so confusing to explain. This is like it's like shifting through the binary number to find the specific layer that we're looking for. I don't, yeah. So I sort of know what that's doing, but it feels very difficult to explain, and I don't know it well enough to explain it. But I think this is what we need to happen. So I'm going to delete that and just test it, and it should just work, and if so, great, we don't need to know. But yeah, it's one of those things where, like, because I want to do it this way, it makes it more confusing, but also if something works, do you need to necessarily know how it works? Maybe not, is the question. Ooh, we've got Ben on TikTok. Hello, Ben. How's it going? I don't know if I've seen a live stream on TikTok. I don't use TikTok that much. I'm starting to use it a little bit more to post clips from the stream. But I just wanted to test how the live things. Okay, so it works. Like, I'm getting damaged as I'm touching the enemy. I don't really know how it works. It just does work. That feels like enough. Like, I sort of know how it works, but not fully. Also, my player's disappeared. I wasn't looking at the screen. I think that means that the player has died. Did anyone see what happened? Did the player just disappear when it lost all its health? I pressed play. I'm going to try and do it again and see. Okay, so we're getting damaged. We can still push him. In theory, it should just delete us when we run out of health. Alright. Boom. Cool. So the player dies when it runs out of health and can get damaged now. That seems pretty good. Cool. Yeah, and then we got a little notification. Player has died. Trying to damage player. Let's get rid of these debug logs now, because this works. So we're good there. And then in our health manager, we could keep that log for now that something has died, just so we don't get confused when things disappear, because that would be quite confusing. I suppose. Okay, so next thing we want to add is, so we can shoot, we can damage enemies, we can kill enemies. Enemies hurt us when we touch them. We can die if we run out of health. Blue Lou, hello. Nice to see you. You remember me from Fall Guys tweets. Nice. It's been a while. About a year now since I left. Something like a year. I should play it again at some point and see what they've been up to. Maybe I'll do a stream of playing Fall Guys again at some point. Cool, so what should we add next? We could make enemies shoot us. We could so the enemy spawner at the moment like spawns within a radius. We could make like an actual sort of portal thing where enemies come out of. We could make the enemies move towards you. That might be good. Let's do that. Let's make enemies walk towards the player. So we'll do should we call this script walk towards player, or yeah, that's probably a good thing to call that. Walk towards player. Move towards player. Yeah, let's just call it move towards player. Zoop. We got Ro on TikTok. How are you? I'm pretty good, thank you. How are you? It's got a symbol next to your name with a 13. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means? Cool. And Jay Clarkus, how's it going? Long time. Has been a very long time. In college now. Nice. Fall semester tomorrow. Are you not on like summer break? I don't know how long summer break lasts and when it I guess if you're going back now for fall, you've just had summer break. It's so hot here at the moment that like it's really hard to tell when is summer. I sort of thought it was already autumn, but maybe not. No, so there's a TM next to your name, and then there's like a blue square, and it's got 13 in it. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's like a TikTok thing. Confusing. Yeah, summer in the UK is wild. We don't have aircon most places. It got so hot in this room that we actually bought an aircon. It's like an aircon unit that goes outside. So I'm sat here complaining about how hot it is. I've got like an actual aircon thing, which has been a lifesaver, to be honest, because it has been so hot this year. It's ridiculous. Oh, it's like a level or something. Nice. I think I'm probably a level 0 on TikTok. Sadly. You sent some roses, thank you. I didn't know that was a thing that you could send emojis. I appreciate them, thank you. They're my first TikTok emojis that I've been sent, I think. I have seen those streams actually where people reenact all of the different emojis that get sent. I'm not going to do that. I don't even know what the rose one would be. Nice haircut, thank you. I haven't had a haircut for years. I think you mean the dye, but no, it's just funny. I think, yeah, a few years ago, my girlfriend trimmed it for a bit. But other than that, I haven't had a haircut for a very long time. Probably need one. GitHub. I have a GitHub, but it's not public. I think it's all like private. I might have put some bits on there publicly, but no actual game stuff really. May I ask, is that dye part of a disability before I ask anything else? I don't want to say something insensitive. No, it's just random colours. We did it yellow and pink, and then because we just dyed it both colours at the same time, it's just blended to, I guess, orange in the middle. Is it like, I don't know, is it the same colours as like a flag or something? Is that what you mean? Or like the logo of a specific charity or something? Got Noah on TikTok. Hello. How is the TikTok stream? Like, can you see things okay? Because it is vertical and I don't know how well you can see like the code, and can you see the game okay at the top? Oh no. Is it actually? I think that's just a coincidence then. I'm going to Google that and confirm if that's true. Let me just... let's see. You might have just memed me. No, nothing comes up for that for me. I think you might just be memeing me. Can see the code and get a screen. All good. Nice. We did it. Chat, we did it. I don't know how similar like Java and C# is. I've done bits in other code now that I know C# and it has been quite easy to pick it up. Probably counts as shadowing. If you follow along with the code, then I don't see why it wouldn't. I used to watch loads of like game dev streams and learnt loads from that. Especially like when I was starting out coding and I'd code my own thing on one screen and then I'd have like somebody else coding on Twitch on the other screen. I just found it more motivating to have like someone else code while I'm coding and then multitask. Lots of concepts transfer, just syntax differences. Yeah, it's like you kind of know how to structure things and what you want to happen. You just don't know like the actual like the words to make that thing happen. Your professors at uni always said that once you've learned one language, learning another will be much easier since they have a lot in common. I can see that being true. I think that makes sense. It's kind of like with a game engine, like it is a lot harder for me to make a game in a game engine I haven't used, but because I've spent so long in Unity, a lot of it does kind of transfer. Like different game engines do things in different ways, but some of it is just like It's just like a different name for the same thing. Cool. So let's have a think. What do we want to add? So I had an idea for the game. Basically, like it's a twin stick shooter, and I want to make it a bit roguelike. So I was thinking, there's a game I really like on Steam called Shotgun King, I think it's called. And basically it's like chess, but you have a gun. And after each round that you beat, you're given 2 options. And each option is like a positive and a negative. So you can choose between like increasing your ammo, but the negative could be it adds loads of horses onto the board in the next round. Or the other option on the other side could be your bullets do more damage, but the castles can move faster. And it creates this really interesting thing where you have to choose each round, like, which positive do I want, but also which negative am I okay with having. And then as you kind of play through more and more rounds, it stacks up which positives you have and also stacks up the negatives. So there's this really interesting thing where you're trying to get a good synergy of the positives, but you're trying to avoid a synergy of the negatives. So I'm thinking we could try and do the same thing, but for like this twin stick shooter, so that like you beat a floor which will have loads of enemies on it, and then you're given an option on the next floor, which negative and which positive do you want to take? Like, do you want like faster shooting, or like bigger bullets, or grenades or something? And then the negatives could be like, there's going to be more enemies, or the enemies can move faster now, or the enemies have got more health. And so you kind of give it the option to the player, like what negative do you want to start happening and which positive do you want to take. And then as they kind of play through more and more rounds, the game keeps getting harder because of the choices they make, but also they get more powerful. And if we can get the balance right, it could be really fun, I think. So what do we need to do that? Let's think. We have the ability to get hurt. We can die. We don't have a way to beat the floor. I guess beating the floor would be to kill all of the enemies. But that means we need to decide how many enemies there should be on this floor to begin with. So let's change how our code works for the enemy spawner. And what we'll do here is, instead of max enemies, we'll rename this to well, let's keep this script the same as it is. Not close this, we'll put this down. We'll make a new script, we'll disable that one. We'll call this one it's like enemy floor manager sort of thing. What would you call it? I guess it's like an enemy manager. But do we already have like an enemy manager on our enemies? We don't. Okay, let's call it enemy manager then. new script, enemy manager. Can chat playtest. There's not really much to playtest at the moment, but we should set something up. Like maybe Discord is a good idea. Okay, let's find our script then. So enemy manager, edit script. Basically, we're going to want serialize field, private, int, and it's not really max enemies, it's like number of enemies on this floor equals, let's say 25. I don't know what's a good amount. And then we will make a prefab for the enemy. We're just gonna have one enemy type at the moment, and then do we want to just spawn them all in to begin with, or in like waves? Let's just spawn them all in and get that working, and then we can decide later. So for int I equals 0, I is less than number of enemies on this floor, I plus plus, then we want to spawn them in. And how will we decide where to spawn them in? Kind of what this is saying. But maybe not exactly that. What we could do serialize field, private, we'll have a list of game objects, and this will be possible spawn points. Do we want it to be a game object though, or just a list of vectors? Okay, let's not do it that way. We'll do another thing down here where we do public. This is going to be confusing, but class. Do we want it to be a class? No, struct. And we'll call this enemy spawn point. And then this will have a public vector free, which will be spawn origin get and set, and then we'll have a radius get and set, and then this will mean we can have a list in here, serialize field, private enemy spawn point list, or an array, enemy spawn points. Okay, so if I am correct and I have done this correctly, which is up for debate, if I jump back into Unity now, hopefully, no, it didn't work. Didn't work. So to get that to work, I think we have to go here and go system serializable. and then we jump back in here. It might work. Ooh, got a list of spawn points. Oh, but I've added one and you can't see anything. Okay, so now we jump back in here again. The thing is, those are both they're both public thingies. Public vector free. Alright, let's get rid of this get and set thing and just do that. And then serialize fields. Public float, spawn radius. Will that work? Save. We're trying to make them show up on here so we can edit them in here. Ooh, yes, that works. So now we can just make a list of spawn points on the map and the radius in which enemies will spawn. But also, I want to like show them in the inspector so we can see them. Not in the inspector, in the like project view. So to do that, visualize spawn points in editor. Maybe it will know. Yes, we want to do on draw gizmos. It doesn't know how to do this, does it? No. So for each variable spawn point in enemy spawn points, color red, draw a sphere, the origin of the spawn point and the spawn radius. Is that on draw gizmos or on draw gizmos selected? That's better. So that means while we have this selected, we should now see. This is going to be crazy if it works. If we go and then we put in some coordinates in here. So if we say like 10, 10 and a spawn radius of 5, we should see a red sphere, but we don't. Oh, is it because I don't have gizmos turned on? There it is. Yeah, look at that. That's where our enemies will spawn in when we've finished the script. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Let's like put that at 15 and we'll make it bigger, so we'll make it like 10, and then we'll basically do the same thing over on the other side, so 15 and make it size 10 as well. Nice. So we can kind of surround ourselves with 4 different spawn points for enemies. And then this will be minus 15. And this will be minus 15. Nice. Okay, so we have these 4 different regions where hopefully we're going to make it spawn enemies within those regions. So on awake, this is where we spawn our enemies then. We're going to want to... So this is a spawn an enemy. Spawn enemy. And then we'll do a new private void spawn enemy. And then basically, yeah, if the spawn points list is 0, do an error, because that is an error. Good. Okay, so spawn point equals, and then randomly choose a spawn point from 0 and the length of the spawn points, and then choose a random position within the spawn point. The only thing is, we don't want it to be a random position like height-wise. We want it to be just on the X and the Z axes, not on the Y axes. Oh, okay, and that's basically done that there as well. Keep the original Y position, but we want that just to be 0. And then create an enemy using the enemy prefab at the new random position with 0 rotation. Cool. So, if this works, I should press play and I will get 25 enemies randomly placed in these 4 circles at random and randomly spread out within those circles. So I'll press play and we'll just see. Does it work? Does it break? It breaks. Oh, it's because I haven't set a prefab. Cool, so let's find our enemy prefab. There it is. Drag that in. You're making an RTS. Nice. I'm making a so it's going to be a twin stick shooter, but also it's going to be a roguelike is the idea. And I was making it before, but I had artwork in and that really slowed things down. So what I'm trying to do now is remake it with no artwork, just using Unity shapes, and try to make the game fun and work out what the game is gameplay wise. So in theory, if I press play now, we should, yeah, look at this, random enemies all over the place. And then if I press pause, we should see all of these enemies are within these 4 circles. It looks correct. Nice. So if I stop and press play again, we'll do this a few times. We should just see that the enemies are in different positions each time. So we can check that because we've got 4 here in like a sort of C shape. And if I stop that, press play again, we should see a different amount probably and not in a C shape. Yes, we got 2. That seems to work pretty well. Make sure to wishlist my game on Steam. Darkest Rupture of the Nightmarish Devil's Blood Rain RTS. That's a very long title for the game. Was that an intentional decision? Let me have a look. Darkest Rupture of the Nightmarish Devil's Blood Rain RTS. Okay, it didn't come up on Google, but if I go to Steam, no results. I can't find it on Steam. I'm starting to feel bad about this. Oh, was it a meme? Oh, he was joking. That's fine. I was taking you completely seriously. I thought that's what you had gone for. Some people do have really long game titles. You are making an RTS. Have you not chosen a name yet? Could spawn them in over time using a coroutine. That's a good idea as well. That's probably a better idea if we're being honest, because you probably don't want to hit play and you're just in the level and all 25 enemies are there as well. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous now that you mention it. Let's edit our script so that it works like that instead. Yeah, that's so silly, because like if there were 200 enemies, they'd just all suddenly be there, wouldn't they? It'd be crazy. Alright, let's do private float time to spawn all enemies, and this will be how long it should take to spawn all of the enemies in. Serialized fields. Have I spelled that wrong somehow? Oh, I didn't put a capital F. There we go. F's in chat. Songs of the Firewall, nice. Yeah, it's tricky with ideas, because like people do say, oh, ideas don't mean anything, it's like execution, which is true, but sometimes the idea itself is actually really valuable as well. Like, I'll try and think of an example. There's like a game on Steam where you have a it's a trading card shop simulator, and if two people make a game that is a trading card shop simulator, they will make different games, but the idea, I think, is kind of important there as well, because then literally there will be two trading card game simulators, and that is quite similar. Like, even if you execute and make them different, the idea there does matter a bit. So let's do a coroutine now. We're going to do how do you do them? It's I have to look it up every time, which is annoying. It should be something I remember, but it's like public enumerator. Can I do it without looking up how you do it each time? Oh, I can't. Enumerator. Spawn enemies over time. Oh, has he done it without having to look it up? Maybe. And then we'll do... How would you do it? You would... How would you do? You would do... Why? Oh, so... We'll do an int current enemy count equals 0. While current enemy count is less than the number of enemies on this floor. Correct. Spawn the enemy in. Increase the enemy count. And then wait for the time to spawn all enemies in divided by the number of enemies on this floor. Awesome. That's literally all you need to do. And then in awake we can just say, instead of this, delete this, boop, we're just going to do start coroutine, spawn enemies over time. Perfect. Then if we jump out and we go here and we say do it over, like, how long should one floor be? Let's say 30 seconds. See what that looks like. So now we've got 25 enemies spawning in over 30 seconds, in theory. Let's just undo that and make this full screen. Okay, so 25 enemies over 30 seconds. Let's see if we can kill them as well. No, I'm killing them way too slow. But this looks like it's working. The enemies are spawning in the right places over time. Nice. It could have gone in update as well. It didn't need to be in async. Cool. So that seems to be working. How are you so relaxed? What is your secret? I've done a lot of streaming in my life. And also, like, I have been coding on and off since I started working in the games industry in like 2013. So I've been coding like in my free time for 12 years. So I don't get too stressed about people seeing my code and what I'm doing. And also, like, I don't take my coding too seriously. Like, I don't think I'm amazing at coding or anything. I think I can make things do what I want them to do, sort of. And that seems pretty good. Seems good enough. Okay, so let's now add a way of tracking all of the enemies that we spawn, so we know if they've all been killed or not. Let's do a serialized field. No, we don't need to serialize it. We'll just do a private list of enemies, game objects. Enemies equals new list of game objects. It doesn't like that because I've not done, don't need that. I've not done using system.collections.generic. Okay, so I can actually just do that, and then in here I can do enemies equals new list of game object. Cool. And then in spawn enemies over time, when I spawn the enemy, I can do game object enemy equals, and then we instantiate an enemy, and then we can do enemies dot add enemy. So it'll add the enemy to our list of enemies. Nice. And then we're also going to do a public, we'll do this in update. What we're going to check is if okay, we'll do private bool all enemies spawned equals false. Yep. And in awake we will make that true as well. We'll say all enemies equals spawned equals false. And then in here, when we spawned all our enemies in, we'll say all enemies spawned equals true. So in update we'll say if all enemies equals spawned is true, Then enemies dot remove all enemies where enemy is equal to null. And what that will do is it'll take out any enemies in our list where they've already been killed and they're null. And then, yeah, if enemies.count equals 0, all enemies have been defeated, and it will log that. And all enemies spawned equals false. Just to prevent this from... well, actually, what we could do... we'll have another bool called all enemies defeated equals false. And then we'll put that here as well. All enemies defeated equals false. And then down here, where we call this, we can just set all enemies spawned, all enemies defeated equals true. There we go. Defeat him. Ruby's back. How are you doing? Crazyo is here. Hello. Yeah, doing pretty well. How are you? Yeah, we should lower the amount of enemies to test it faster. Do a TRO. I'm good, thank you. I'm still drinking my coffee. I'm quite slow with it today, I don't know why. Alright, so save. Let's test this now, and we will lower the amount of enemies. We'll just do 5 enemies. And the time to spawn them all in is 10 seconds. Okay. So, press play. This feels like we're going to be testing loads of stuff in one go. Alright, so we're testing, do 5 enemies spawn in 10 seconds? It looks like yes. 5 enemies have spawned in. Cool. Now if we go through and we destroy them all, that's 1 destroyed. Enemy clone has died. Destroy this one. Destroy this one. Whoop. Destroy this one. And destroy the last one. We get a message that says all enemies defeated. Nice. Cool. Oh yeah, Socks. Yeah, Socks is doing good too. He's opening up a shop soon, which is quite exciting. You've been speedrunning Super Mario Bros. On the Wii and New Super Luigi U now. Nice. I'm out of date with Nintendo games, so I've not played the latest Super Mario Bros. Also, I don't know if I know what Super Luigi U is. "12 years since you saw my videos." Yep, that is a very long time. I can't believe it's been 12 years as well. Okay, so well, we've got a bit of a game loop here, haven't we? Because we can press play, it spawns in all our enemies, and we can defeat them all, and then we get a message saying all enemies defeated. So should we now try and make a game manager and just try and connect that loop up to make like a full loop? Right. Let's do that. Let's make a game manager. So new game manager, save. Ambient Joe, hello, how's it going? Still love Super Powerless. Nice. It's been a long time since I heard that name. You made your prototype way faster than I ever could. So what's funny is I was making this game like a few months ago, and I think I spent 2 or 3 months on it, and it wasn't as far along as this is, and it's because I was like doing art things as well. So I was like, it's set in an office, so I'll make the player character, and then I'll make like the office, and I'll try and do office lighting, and I'll do some like office patterns on stuff. And basically by adding artwork in and like getting sidetracked by that, it really slowed down the actual gameplay prototype side. So now I'm trying to like remake the game with no artwork, only using 3D shapes. And like this game now is further along, and it's been the 3-hour stream last week and then 1 hour 20 minutes this week. So it's been 4 hours 20 minutes so far. 420 blaze it, and we're already further than I was when I spent like a few months working on the game. So that's embarrassing, but also a great lesson to learn. Yeah, I think it's because like, so working in studios, when we've worked on like game jams or prototypes, we have done like the artwork as well as like the prototyping with shapes, like at the same sort of time, because you have those people on the team, artists and everything, so they're just working on the game as well. And like you are kind of like building all these things at the same time, rather than doing like, let's do all the gameplay first and then we'll try and figure out the art once we know what the gameplay is. And maybe it would be more efficient just to only do like the no art version and then move on to art. But I think the other side of it, I guess, as well, is as soon as you start putting some artwork in, it does really feel like a game faster as well. Yeah. But, yeah, if it feels fun with primitive shapes, it will be fun with visuals, is, I think, very true. Jay, you're going to do a rap song application. Nice. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's crazy. Long time ago as well. Like 12 years. I don't know how I found time to do a lot of the stuff I did before. Like I do 1 stream a week now, and that's a lot. I'm old. Alright, save. So our game manager is going to be responsible for like setting the game up and figuring out when the game finishes and all that sort of jazz. So game manager, so we'll have a start game method, public void start game. I'll do it private, I suppose. And then we'll have update, and in here we'll have check for game ended. We'll also have a public enum called, oh, it kind of predicted it already, but game state, and then we'll have let's add in here playing and I suppose paused, but ended. Ended. How do we want to split it up? Ended is probably good. Alright, let's just do it with those two states for now. Playing and ended. And then we'll have a public game state, current game state. So title screen I like to do in a separate scene, like before this one. So I do the title screen when I load into this main scene, and this scene will just handle like the game side of things. You don't have to do it that way, it's just the way I've always done it in Unity. No, I think you could do it all in one scene, and it'll be easier in some ways because then you'd have everything you already need. And you don't have to worry about taking things from one scene to another, because that's a whole level of like complexity when you do that. Yeah, Copilot is surprisingly quite good, I've found. Some people say it's rubbish, but I genuinely find that like more than 50% of the time it codes what I was going to type anyway. So I'll leave it enabled. Yeah, I like title screens that are like in-engine and then not like a 2D menu. I think they call, is it like diegetic, something like that, where all the buttons are like in-world buttons. Is cool. Cool. So all right, we need another state that is like beginning the level, so let's call it what would you call that? It's like, it's not the game playing, it's the sort of like setup or like awake. Ruby's going to bed. Night. What should we call this? It's like, let's call it setup. Intro would have been good as well. We'll call it setup. Setup's good. Alright, so on awake, we want to change the current scene to setup. Then we want to set up the game, and then we want to set our current state to playing. And then in update, we want to check if current game state equals playing, check for game over. Cool. And then we'll change ended to level 1 and also player dead. Player died. Level lost. Look at that. That makes sense. Cool. So if the game is playing, we want to check for level 1 or win-loss conditions. That sounds good. Cool. And yeah, basically if level 1 condition is true, then it's won, or if not, it's lost. Nice. Cool. So, set up the game. We'll do start game. Start the game. And actually, what we could do is put that condition there in start the game, which would just call start the game. Not start the game, start game. That would do that. Okay. I think this is quite tidy and messy at the same time. Alright, so what do we need to know to start the game? Well, we probably want to spawn in a player character. So let's also add on here a serialized field, game object, player character. I'll call it player prefab. Cool. So when we set it up, it's probably a good time to instantiate a player prefab, a 0, 0. There we go. And actually, maybe we want to keep a track of the player. We don't need it right now, but maybe we'll want that. So serialized field, let me see if I can figure out a good way to explain it. Yeah, player instance. Alright, so you can have two types of well, there's not two types, there's more than two types. But there's mostly two types of variable you can have. So you can see this is a private variable, player instance. When it's private, you can only change it or read it or reference it within this script. Which means no other script in the game can mess about with what that is. Which is really good because it means nowhere else in the code could you accidentally change what this does or change what it's set to, things like that. But if you, instead of private, write public, it means anywhere else in the game you could do game manager dot player instance equals and make it something else. Yeah, so you understand those bits. Cool. So then serialized field, if you put that on a private variable, it means that it will show up in the inspector. So you can still set player prefab here to be the player prefab. Because private variables, so we have this player instance private variable. It doesn't show up in here because it's private. But if I did want it to show up, I could just write serialized field and then it will show up here but still be private. So it's like, it's a weird, so you can't change it from anywhere else, but you can get to it from Unity. It might be a Unity specific thing even. Let me just hover over it and see. Yeah, look, it says Unity engine dot serialized field. So force Unity to serialize a private field. So it is like something specific in Unity. But it is really useful to be able to set that in Unity editor, even though it is private technically. Cool. So we probably want this to be private as well, the current game state. So we can't change game states outside of the game manager. No, like, it's not slowing me down, and it's really good to ask questions because it sort of makes me rethink what I'm doing a bit, and like I spend a lot of my time coding like looking up how things are done, and in fact I don't as much anymore because this Copilot thing answers a lot of the questions I would have, so I code way faster now that I have this because I don't need to like look every individual thing up again, which is cool. Yeah, I do feel like whenever I've done like tutorials before, it has helped me learn that thing as well. So I do find it really like a better way to learn things is to create like tutorials or like to write down how to do it again, like for yourself in future, and then it just makes you kind of think, well, why does it work like that, and then you get more out of it. All right, so we want to set our player instance to be the player that we create there, which is cool. Public float test private set get. Yeah. So I think that is a better way of doing what I normally do, where I would do. I'd do this. I'd have player instance, and then player instance like that. So you can publicly get the player instance, but it just gives you back the private one, which is the same thing as what you've written, where it is a public float, so it would appear in the editor and also other scripts could get it, but you've got a private set, so you'd only be able to change it in the script. So that would be, is that literally just a different way of typing it then? Because typing it like the way you've done it is probably better because it fits all on one line then. It's like this is 2 lines already, and if I wanted to serialize that as well I could do, but it just gets a bit more confusing. Cool. So we know now. We create the player, all that stuff. This enemy manager script, let's make this used by our game manager instead. So to do that, we will have a private enemy manager, and then we'll do that thing where you have to have a no, we won't force you to have one. Let's not for now. Alright, so we'll have our enemy manager, and then we want to jump into that, and instead of on awake doing all this, we can change the name of this to be start spawning enemies. I'll make this public void, and then if we go back to here, what we can do then is when we start game, we can call our enemy manager dot start spawning enemies there. And what we also might want to do now is go back to our enemy manager. We can get rid of this enemies on this floor. No. Let's not get rid of it. What we'll do is we'll take it away from being a serialized field. And we will take this away, and then when we start to spawn all enemies, we will pass in an int number of enemies to spawn, and we will also pass in a, what was the other one that I changed? Float. Time to spawn all enemies. And then in here we'll just do that. So number of enemies to slot equals number of enemies to spawn, and time to spawn all enemies equals time to spawn all enemies. And then if we go back to our game manager, we can now hover over this, and it says we need number of enemies to spawn and also time to spawn all enemies. We can just add them to our game manager. You can do this where you put header equals enemy settings, and then we'll do serialized field private int number of enemies per level, and then also there you go, time to spawn all enemies. Nice. And then when we start the game, we'll just pass in our number of enemies per level and our time to spawn all enemies. Save. Cool. And then we can go to our enemy spawner script. We can just copy that, turn it off there, paste it onto our game manager. Paste. Cool. And now we can edit the number of enemies here, so we'll just say 10, and time to spawn them all in, let's just say 30 seconds. Cool. So if I press play now, we should see that, well, actually I should delete the player from the scene because we're going to spawn a new player in as well. Save, save, play. So we click play, it should spawn in a player and start playing. So there's our player. We can't move though, and there's an error. Oh, our enemy manager is not set to anything. So let's do require component enemy manager. I don't know if I want to do that because maybe we don't want enemies. I'm going to delete that. We're not going to have that. We'll just do, where was the enemy thing here? Yeah, so if enemy manager doesn't equal null, then do that. But also if enemy manager equals null, then not find object, get component enemy manager. Cool. Let's then just checking something. I had a window open that told me, well, showed me the chat on TikTok, but I do not see that now. Oh, there it is. Found it. Cool. No, 15 is early to start coding. From my perspective, I didn't start coding until I was like, well, I was 24. And I'm now 36, so 12 years ago. But yeah, if you start coding now, you started coding 9 years before I did. which is a long time. And I don't feel like I started coding too late. Like, I feel like you could easily start coding at any age, really. There's not really a cut-off point or anything. Okay, so let's undo that. Ooh, what have we got here? We've got a bug. Interesting. We'll deal with that later. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, let's fix this bug. So, private void on disable input actions dot disable, and then private void on enable input actions enable, and then we'll take that out of here. Only thing with that is, will that get called before that? I can do excuse me. Is on enable called before or after awake? Answer. On enable is called after awake. Okay, so we're good. So if Copilot is correct, then it will call this, get this input actions, which is good, and then it will call this, which is what we want. Bug delete C Windows System 32. That would be a disaster. Your hair is cool, thank you. Yeah, I find that really funny as well, using like the autocomplete to answer my questions with comments. It works really well. It's surprisingly fast as well. So instead of having to look something up, I ask the question as a comment, and then the next comment is usually the correct answer to whatever you were struggling with. I imagine sometimes it won't work, but it seems to have a pretty good rate of success so far. Cool, so if I press play, let's see if this works, because I don't know if we actually managed to get this working or not. Cool, so it is spawning enemies in. I can see we have 5 of them, 6 of them. So we're going to try and spawn 10 of them in. Let's push all these enemies in here so we can see them and just destroy some of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it should say, yep, all enemies defeated. Cool. So we now have on our game manager, it will start a game and then it will work and start a game and spawn the enemies in. Let's now not do this when you start the game. So let's take out... How do we want to do this? We want to take this player bit where we make a new player, and we'll put this in start game as well. And yeah, we'll just go straight into setup. We'll take start game out of here. We'll have a new function. No, we won't. Yes, we will. Let's do... Let's think. I'm going to do it like on a UI button. I'm going to do a public void manual trigger start game. And this will do if current game state equals game state setup, then start game. Cool. So now the game will only start when we call manual trigger start game. Cool. Yeah, for the game state, you could have a switch instead of doing the if here, because we probably will have more things happening. I'll change it when I come back to this, because I don't know how much we'll want to do here versus in other places. So, let's now also add in a header UI settings. We'll add in a serialized field, private, game object, game start UI. Cool. And then we will make that UI. So we'll do UI canvas, screen space overlay, scale with screen size 1920 by 1080. We will do a UI, just a button. Where's the buttons at? Just Text Mesh Pro buttons, that'll do. Oh, we've got to import the essentials for Text Mesh Pro. Okay, so we've got a button. It says button. We'll just make that say a start game, and then we'll make it a bit bigger because it's tiny. 320 by 60. Cool. Alright, so I'm going to add on here a new script. I'm going to call it, what shall I call it? Start Game UI Manager. Edit script. Phone's going off. We can change that script to have a button reference. So serialize field, private, text mesh pro button. Is that not what you would do? I do using TM Pro text mesh pro button. What is this button then? Is this button... Oh, it's just Unity button. I thought it was a special type of button because it's Text Mesh Pro. So in C# you don't really have like a main method entry point in the same way. Using Unity, I think like Unity sort of takes care of that side of it. So the game just will play, and then awake gets called on everything, start gets called on everything, and update gets called on everything. So like whatever scene you have set to load first will just load, and then all those like default Unity things will get called on those. We'll call this like start one. Yeah, it does it for you. It's quite convenient in that way. So what I want to do is have a public button, start button, returns that. I'm going to create the UI settings. Let's think. So we're going to set the game up. We're going to create if game start UI equals null. It can't equal null because that's the prefab, right? Yeah, it's the prefab we're going to use. Prefab. So we will create a new private game object instance of the UI. If game start UI instance equals null, then spawn it in. Yeah, and then do that. Literally what it's suggesting is what I want to do, but I'll just do start menu, start game UI manager SG UI manager equals get component that. Then I do SG UI manager dot start button, on click, add listener, start game. and then I'll do on enable, and I'll do private void on disable, and I'll add and remove those there. Disable, remove listener. Why didn't it like that? Doesn't exist in this current context. Why would it not exist? Oh, I don't keep a reference to it, so I probably should. We could change this to not be a game object, to just be a start game UI manager, and then we'll do that dot get component no. We'll do a game object here called GameStartUI instance, which we will then do wait, why is it letting me do that like that? GameStart game object, GameStartUI game objects, geo. Then here we can do GameStartUI instance equals that. Then here we can do GameStartUI instance dot start button. I spelled this all wrong. There we go. On listener, add listener there, and then here change that to remove that. But also probably want to do a is that's not null, then this. Also, we want it to be the manual trigger one. Manual trigger start game. Okay. So then when we start the game, we won't destroy that. We'll just deactivate it. Doesn't equal null, then game start UI instance dot game object dot set active true. No, set active false. Oop. And then we will do basically the same thing, set true. If it equals null, we'll instantiate it and then set it to be true. Set active to true. In fact, we want to do that even if it was already set. But we can't, can we? Else, yeah, that basically. It's like doing weird things with my line spacings. Alright, so in theory now, if I go here, I rename this to canvas start game button UI. And then in here I need to set the start button as well. So set that to that. Save. If I turn that into a prefab now, so I'll make a new folder in prefabs called UI prefabs. And then just drag this start button UI in there. Then we can delete that from the scene. And save. 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 Okay, so I think if I go back to Game Manager, we need to set our prefab there for the UI. Save. If I press play now, it should not spawn a player in, just spawn in the start button. Then I click start and nothing happens, it breaks. This is null. Oh, Visual Studio is still on screen for you. I see. Oops. Basically, it spawned the button in, so we got a start button, but then when I clicked it, nothing happened because it broke. And it got to here, and then it sort of died. So... wait, what am I doing here? That's ridiculous. Yeah, that. Get rid of that. That makes no sense. There, save. Cool. Clear. Play. Alright, that was just a weird, like a loop of saying if it equals null, then it equals itself dot something. Okay, so start game. It works. You can see that as well. Cool. So we have the start button, and then we click start, and then it starts a game. And then we kill everything, and we should then add in a new UI that's basically like level complete, and then we can work on our system for adding the upgrades that you will get. So let's kill this enemy, just make sure it still pops up and says yep, all enemies defeated. Cool. So the way I kind of want to do it now is instead of enemy manager checking has every enemy been defeated? Oh no, it can still do that. Let's still do it this way. Actually, that probably makes sense. We will just have a extra thing here called public bool. Yeah, basically that. All enemies defeated, and then it responds with the variable there. So we can go back here, and if we are playing, we can check if enemy manager doesn't equal null and enemy manager dot all enemies defeated, then the game state equals level 1. And we log level 1. Cool. So that's good. Okay. Nice. And then for losing, we should go to our player. Where's our player? Go to our player health manager. And we don't want to die when it runs out of health. So let's have like let's handle this a bit differently. So what's the best way to do this? So we have a health manager and it checks if the player's dead, and if so, it destroys them. We want to not do that because it's the player. Or what we could do is do a public event on death equals new event. Alright. And then here we just do on death question mark dot invoke. And now, oh, why does that not work? Oh, you can't call invoke on an event. Dot. What am I doing wrong there? Why does that not work? Why would that not work? Am I using events wrong? I'll try with comments. Trigger a death event. On death dot invoke. Invoke. It doesn't like it. It doesn't want me to do it that way. I know if I did it as like a Unity event, that would work. But that also doesn't seem to work. Public event on death equals new event. Why can't you? Yeah, do you need to import something for that? It says event doesn't have invoke. Yeah, you Unity engine.events. There we go. What would that give us? Still doesn't like that though. Yeah, I thought you need a question mark, but that also doesn't seem to work. I'm going to Google that because I really think that should work. How to do events in Unity. Oh, okay. So, this gets confusing, I guess, but the way it says to do it here, set up a public delegate void def event, then do a public static event def event on def, and then you can just do on def invoke there. And then if we rename that to player died, or maybe this is overpowered because we've done it as static, but I think technically now you could go here and you could do start game, we spawn our player in, then we could do player died. You can't just do player died? Where's the player? Rename on def, because it's not always the player. Health manager on def. Why should that be static though? I don't even know now. I'm confused. We want to do player instance dot get component health manager, then dot on def die event. On def, I thought maybe. Health manager on def. Or would you do in this instance? Yeah, that's not what we want. We don't want a static one then. We want the opposite of a static one, so just a public event on def. There. And then now that is correct. We can do that. and then we will have a new method called private void player died, and then here we'll do zoop player died. Do you have to remember yourself to remove those events? Like, do I have to do player instance dot get component health manager on death player died remove? Maybe. Okay, so when the player dies now, it should call this player died script here, and then we can do current game state equals level lost, debug.log player died game over. Cool. So update is checking for this. And then the other one is called automatically. And we can also do if current game state equals game state dot playing, and then you can only die during the actual gameplay itself. Save. I think that should work. Play. Okay, so we've got start game. Click start game, spawn in a player and an enemy. Let's go kill our enemies. Kill that one. And just need to find this one. We should fix the camera today as well. Okay, kill that one. Kill this one. And that one. And that one. That one. That one. There's one more somewhere around here. Okay. Think that's killing him. There we go. Okay, so level 1 is called. That works. And player enemy died is called 10 times. That works. Let's try now. We are just going to go step on an enemy and let the enemy kill us. And see if level lost appears. So I'm just walking into the enemy. I run out of health and player has died and player died game over gets called. Cool. So one thing there that I noticed, it still spawned enemies in even after you died. So let's do here a public game state current state equals get the current state, and then we can go to our enemy manager and we will just check what state the game loop is in. So this is a thing, right, where we have a game manager that has an enemy manager. We don't want to give the enemy manager a reference back to the game manager, because that's called
go to bed.
Alexa,
sorry, I didn't find
stop.
a group or device.
Alexa,
lava lamp.
Stop. There we go. Used to have a lava lamp, but don't have one plugged in. Still have it, but it's not connected. It's just to remember always to turn the lava lamp off. But now we just get a warning that the lava lamp has gone missing. It's 11 o'clock and she just says go to bed at 11 o'clock. Which I try to do, but not always. I'm going to stream for another half an hour there. I'm trying to do 3-hour stream. I think is a good amount. So we shouldn't give the enemy manager a reference to the game manager, but we want the enemy manager to know what state the game manager is in. So if you don't want to cause circular dependence, how would you let the enemy manager know what the game manager's doing without having that circular dependence? You break out of the loop. So what I was going to do, I was going to, in my while loop, I was going to check. I was going to add a reference in, where is it? I was going to add a reference into the game manager, check what state the game manager's in, and then if it's paused or it's not playing or whatever, just pause this. But can't do that because we'd be creating this circular dependence thing that I've been warned lots of times is bad. Don't do it. Alright, how do I break out of this while loop if the game manager is not in the playing state without causing circular dependencies between game manager and enemy manager? Answer: you can't directly, but you can add a public method to stop spawning and call that from the game manager when the state changes. I could do that. That is true. What I could do is add here private bool is paused equals false, and public bool is paused well, I want to be able to set it as well. So should I just have that be a public bool? Is paused equals public bool is paused equals false. Start spawning enemies. Then is paused equals false. Then we just do here if is paused yield return null and otherwise continue. Nice. So now this checks how I pause. If I wait for the next frame, try again. If not, just keep going. Then we can go back to our game manager, and when we move out of the thing, so when we go from, this is going to get more confusing now. When we do either level lost here, player died, or level 1, yeah, we could do it that way. Have a player state. Then, but also we're going to want a pause menu, and this will have a paused state and an unpause. Alright, so I will have here, I'll have private void pause, I'm going to call it pause enemy store, pause enemy spawning for now. And then private void resume enemy spawning. Cool. And then I'll just have nah, I hate this. I've changed my mind. Because then in everything that we want to pause, we would have to have the same thing. We'd have to always go back to our game manager and add an is pause or is not pause. So I'm going to do the circular dependency that I've been told not to do, because I can't think of a better way of doing it. Like, yeah. Because really, like, what you want to check here is, let's in fact make this a singleton then. So we do private, now it would be a public static game manager instance get private set. So on awake, which we have here, we would do I don't want to do the destroy and load thing. I'll just do instance equals this. That'll be enough for my purposes. Cool. And then we can go to here. We'll do if game manager dot instance dot current game state doesn't equal playing game manager dot game state dot playing, then just pause. and then the game manager doesn't need to worry about that. It just sorts itself out. They do say not to do this though with the circular dependency, because now our enemy manager script is dependent on our game manager script because it does that. But our game manager script also creates the enemy manager script and has a reference to it. So both of those are like circularly dependent. But I don't know how else you would do that. I feel like you have to have some sort of connection back to it to check. But that's a problem to solve later, because I think for now this way of doing it will just work. Could you make a subclass? Yeah, game state could be its own class. Where game manager is dependent on creating an enemy manager to have a connection that way, and also it has a game state connection, and then enemy manager wouldn't need a link back to the game manager, but it would also need a reference to the game state. Oh, you got hit with an ad. I can't hear the response. Let me know when you're back. I think that would work. Yeah, that's confusing though. But I think in theory if I press play we should be able to just test that and see now if that works or not. And yeah, so we can test if it works by, if we die before all the enemies spawn, no more enemies should spawn in. So if I start game, I go get killed quickly. You're back now. Yeah, I think what you said would work if you had like a... Okay, so that's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enemies there. It has paused it. Excuse me. The only thing then is technically when we restart the game then, start spawning enemies, we probably want a reference to that coroutine. Let's put that in. So we'll have private coroutine, spawning coroutine. So spawning coroutine equals, and we'll start that. But we'll also do if it's already equal to something, then stop it and then start it again. Cool. Yeah, so if we made a subclass which is like game state, then we have our game manager which is connected to our enemy managers, and we have our game manager connected to our game state, and then our enemy manager wouldn't need a connection to our game manager, but it would just need a connection to the game state. And I don't know if that is also creating a circle dependency or if not, but I feel like that's something I could read about in between this stream and next stream, because it feels like quite a confusing thing where it feels like a too big a subject to look up and fix in the time that we have. But I think this works, so don't worry about it too much for now. Maybe probably a good call. Alright, so that works. We can end the game early by dying or by killing everything. So let's make a new UI now for like the end screen. We'll just copy paste what we had there. We'll change its name to level lost UI. So this one, maybe we just have a button on it and it just says restart game. Okay. And our level 1 screen, I guess also for now, maybe we just want a restart button on it. And we'll add in a little message just so we know we've won or lost. So let's add in a Text Mesh Pro and we'll just write, you have won. And then we'll just put that up here. 320 centered. And we'll put it at 100. And then we'll copy that, we'll put it on the lost one as well. Oops. And we'll change this to you have lost. And then if we go back to here, we can go to our game manager. We'll add in our new canvases. So we will have a serialized field, private game objects. It is basically game over, but it's game lost UI prefab. And we'll have serialized fields, private game objects, game 1 UI prefab. Cool. We probably want instances of those as well, so private. We probably want to write scripts on both of those as well. So let's go back to Unity, find our scripts. So on our level 1, we're going to get rid of this start game UI manager script. We'll add a new script, level 1 UI manager. Okay. Edit script. We'll go to our start game UI manager. We'll basically copy and paste this in to our level 1 script. We just want that name there. Okay, so our start button is actually a restart button now. So we'll do restart button equals restart button. And our level lost UI manager is basically just going to be the exact same thing for now. They will be different at some point, so it's worth just having them as separate scripts rather than the same script. So we've got a level 1 UI, and then we'll do a level lost UI manager on this one. New scripts. Level lost UI manager. Cool. So this one we will do. We've got level 1. We're just done. Let's copy and paste that. Nothing wrong with basic placeholders. Yeah. We'll change that to lost. Cool. And then on our game manager, we will have private level lost UI manager, and that'll be level lost UI instance, and then same again, private level 1 UI manager and level 1 UI instance. So then when we die, we shift to level lost as our state. We also want to spawn in so level 1, no, it would be lost. Level lost UI instance equals spawn one in, and then do that. I don't think we necessarily need to reload the level though. I think we can make it a bit smarter than that. So restart button on click, we could just also send it to this manual trigger start game. Manual trigger start game. Yeah. And then on disable, we want to do level lost UI instance dot start restart button, remove trigger, and same for that one. And that is also going to be restart button. Cool. And then player died. Do we have game 1 anywhere? This is our game 1 bit, so here we would have level 1 UI instance, and then this would be game 1 or level 1. Level 1 UI prefab, is it called? Game 1 I called it. Game 1 UI prefab. No? Game 1 UI prefab. Oh, this should be level 1 UI manager. And then this is level 1 instance, restart button. Cool. I think that should work now. So, the only thing is, we don't destroy all the enemies when we restart at the moment. So any enemies that are made will still be there. If we do it this way, where we don't restart the level, then we have to manually tidy the level up. Which is fine, we just need to make sure we do actually do that. But okay, so start game. Let's lose. Cool. Oh, it broke because we didn't set our prefabs, I don't think. In our game manager, we need to add level 1 UI there and level lost UI there. Save. Play. Let's do it full screen, why not? Alright, start game. Got full health. We go. We get killed. You have lost, and then we can restart game. It didn't actually kill the enemy though. I mean the player. Which it should have done. Interesting. Why would it not kill the player? Was there any errors? Oh, there's errors, that's why. But then if I click restart, nothing happens. Alright, so oh yeah. It's because if we go to our level 1 UI, we didn't set the button, so we need to put the button in the restart button thing. And then on the level lost, we also need to set the button there. Cool. Alright, play. Make it full screen. Start game. We've got full health. We're in that. We get killed. Oh, you can't see. VS Studio. Oop, there we go. You've lost. Restart again. I'll just restart it so you can see properly. Alright, so we click start, we get a player, it gets full health, we get killed. The player should get deleted because it died. It says you have lost, restart game, no more enemies should spawn in, which seems to be true. I click restart game. I don't think it's going to tidy itself up because we haven't coded that. So I think we will get a new player. These enemies will all stay, but it will also start spawning in new enemies. But that didn't work. Why would it not work? That's fine. So because we do here check, is it the game setup? And if so, start the game. So let's swap this now to the switch thing. So switch, and then we'll use the current game state as the switch, and then we'll do case game state dot setup, then start game break, and then we'll do case game start dot level lost, start game, break, and level 1 break. So if you won the level before, you would still have a player character. So actually in this situation we probably want to do player or destroy player instance, like that. Destroy the player instance and then start game. You could just set a default case. Yeah, you could do that as well. That's true. For testing. Those should be our two cases. Level lost. I'm going to put here destroy all enemies at this point. And the same would be true if you'd won, but we've already destroyed them anyway. And I guess even it might be worth doing that in setup anyway, because if I have enemies in the scene just because I'm testing stuff, we would want them to get destroyed. Okay, so start game. I go get killed. We're trying to go for a game lost. Do enemies using the enemy tag? Not using the enemy tag, but they're on the enemy layer. Okay, so you have lost. Restart game. Okay, so restart game. We need to get rid of that UI. And also, it is working, but then, yeah, the enemies from before are still here. So, die. Now we have two UIs on top of each other. So, if I die again. Dun, dun, dun. You've lost. So the loop's sort of working. We just need to get rid of that UI when we start the game. So start game. We also want to do if level lost UI doesn't equal null, destroy it. And if level 1 UI doesn't equal null, destroy that. We could also just destroy the game start UI. If it equals null, do that. Else. And we'll just get rid of that. And then we don't just have it in the scene, we can just get rid of it and handle it a bit better. Yeah, we have the list on Enemy Manager. So we could send a message to Enemy Manager. And then in here we could just have a private void. No, we'll do a public. Public void. Destroy all enemies. And yeah, we can stop the coroutine if it is running. And then for each enemy in enemies, we'll do, if it's not null, destroy enemy. Then we'll clear our enemy list, and all enemies defeated, we will set to true. No, let's have a bool here to set that. Bool. Trigger all enemies defeated. And then this will be equal to trigger all enemies defeated. Because we might not necessarily want to trigger that code. We don't need the end bool if it's already triggered when the player kills them all. Which end bool? You mean this bit? We don't really need to. Yeah, we don't really need to, do we? And then, because our update, all enemies spawned. This is just checking if the game has ended. We only need to do that if the game is currently playing. So we could have here, if all enemies are spawned and game manager dot instance dot game current game state equals playing, then continue to do that. Don't do that if not. Okay. And we could twist this around and not have it in an update. Let's do it this way. So what we'll do is we'll do public void, not void, bool, are all enemies defeated. And then we can just check if, and then this return true, else at the bottom here return false. Then we don't have to don't necessarily need to like have all enemies defeated here. We can get rid of this. Get rid of this. Then when we check are all enemies are defeated, we can just do this bit here where we check. We don't need to check the state of the game manager for that anymore. We can do, yeah, we do just remove the null ones at this point. And then if we go back to our game manager, yeah, so in here we can check now. Are all enemies defeated? And now that will check true or false. And if it's true, it'll do this bit. Cool. So we destroy the UI we don't need. Cool. We do spawn that game start UI in at start, that's fine. Alright, play. Let's try again. Oh, we've gone over 3 hours, so let's call this like the last check. Alright, so here's what we've done today. If it works, let me hide Visual Studio so you can see. Alright, full screen. This is the game. So we've added this start menu in. You click start, spawns your player character in. You can now get damaged by enemies. And the enemies spawn in around this like area and over time now instead. So we get killed. You've got this screen here that says you have lost and restart game. If I click this now, it should get rid of this UI and give us a new player, give us full health again, and it should destroy enemies. Although now I'm thinking about it, I don't think I put the code in to actually trigger to destroy them. So yeah, okay, so we get a new player, but it didn't do the code to destroy them. Let's just add that in. So when we do start game, we could do it. Yeah, we'll do it up here. We'll do enemy manager dot destroy all enemies, and then we will do start spawning enemies. Do we just want to make it so that once we call the start spawning enemies, that handles destroying any existing enemies, or do you think it's worth destroy all enemies being a separate thing that we call? I'm not sure. I was going to put it on the switch case. Where is the switch case gone? Manual trigger start game. Oh yeah, I could have it in here. Yeah, I was going to have it here. When a level is lost. That's when we destroy them. Or do we still want to see on the screen the enemies at that point until we actually start the new game? Maybe we do want to sort of see them. And in fact then we don't want to destroy the player there, we want to destroy the player here. if player instance doesn't equal null, destroy player, then spawn a new player. Cool. Alright, let's try that. Play. Let's see. Okay, so we get a new menu. We click start game, spawn a character in, and it breaks. Why is it broken? Oh, okay. On disable of the game manager. What happens to long form content? So I have a job at the moment and I don't have time to do the long form videos. They were taking quite a lot longer. They were taking like a few days to do. And so with a job as well, it meant like it would take the whole weekend. But before that I didn't have a job, so I just had loads of free time. I'm thinking maybe I would do some more long form videos if I can find a faster way to do them. So like that video I did of like how to make a main menu, that took like 4 or 5 days of editing. It was a really long time to do that. But some of the other videos I've done took like a day of editing, so that was much more reasonable. Yeah, I think I just need to figure out how to make content faster if I'm doing the long form stuff. So, oh, okay. When we call destroy all enemies, we need to check first if enemies equals null, then just return. Because if it's null, we don't need to do this. Also, we can say if it doesn't equal null, then do this. It's probably a better way around. Put that in that. I think that's what's causing the bug. As long as you're happy, we're happy. Yeah, pretty happy. I would like to do long form videos again. I did really miss it and I really enjoyed it when I was doing it. It's just finding time is tricky. Alright, let's try it. Hit play. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's working. Right, we hit start. We get a player. We get enemies. We die. Let the enemies hurt us. Cool. That kills us. You've lost. Restart game. No more enemies are spawning in. If I click restart game, all the enemies should disappear. We should get a new player and it should start spawning in new enemies. Cool. So that seems to be working. Let's just try dying again and making sure it does as it is supposed to do. You have lost. Restart game. Seems to be working. Let's let it do it again. So we die. No more enemies spawn in. Restart game. Cool. Let's try now if we defeat all the enemies. So let's start killing them. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Looks like there's one just off screen there. Yep. 9. And then we should win when we kill this one. 10. You've won. Woo! And suspiciously, it still lets us play. That's not suspicious because we didn't tell it to like destroy the player or anything if you win. But if I click restart game now, this UI should disappear and it should destroy this player and start a new game. Yes. Cool. So now if I just try losing again, because we haven't restarted the level, I just want to like do it a few times to make sure everything gets like tidied up properly. So you've lost, restart game, and it does seem to be working. Just try winning again to make sure it still works. Seems to work though. We have like a bit of a game loop in there. Then we can start adding all the other stuff we were talking about, where like you can start get an upgrade between floors, and then move on to the next floor. Because I'm thinking it'll work in an office. When you've killed all the enemies, instead of it just popping up with a message saying you've won, I think like the elevator doors should open up and you should go into the elevator to move up to the next floor. That feels like a more theme appropriate way of doing it. Where is the other enemy? They're off screen somewhere. But where? Let's pause it. Ah, there they are. Alright, let's try and find them. They're over here. Shoot them back in. You've won. Restart. Nice. Might need to tighten up the spawner. Yeah, so also we were going to add in like the camera moving with the player. I mean, really quickly to fix that for now, we could just drag the... Oh no, we can't drag it on because we spawned the player in. Alright, well, no, we can't do that. We'll just do that next week and we'll make it work properly. Oh, what's this where we're getting a null reference when we try and do this bit? So maybe here we'll just do that. Is player instance true? If so, get health manager. And if so, on def, minus equals. Should not use null for that. How do I fix that then? Use null comparison instead. And how would that work? I'm going to click fix with Copilot and see what happens. Whoa! What is this saying to do? Oh, just check if it's null. Alright, yeah, let's do it that way. That's probably a better way of doing it. So, it's changed it for us. It's basically going to do, if the game UI isn't null, then remove the listener. If the player instance isn't null, get the health manager, remove that on def event, and then remove the listener for these buttons as well, if they're not null. But they should be null just in the way that we're like handling, destroying stuff. Q. Save all. Cool. Let me just press play and then unpause it and just see if that error comes up or if we fixed it now. Start game. Stop. Nice. We did it. Cool. Alright, well, thanks for watching everyone and hanging out. I think my plan is to do another stream like this next week on Sunday again. And then in between now and then, I'm just going to cut this stream up into a bunch of short videos that I'll post on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And then, yeah, I'll be back in a week on Twitch and everything to stream more game dev. So we've spent like 6 hours on this game so far, and it feels like a pretty good amount of progress. Some bits are definitely coded in a way that could be improved, but that's fine. We're sort of prototyping, and we can just keep improving as we go, which is cool. Alright, thank you for watching and goodbye. Need to figure out where the button is